Hey everybody, this is Dan with Pain Free You, and today I'm here with Monica from New Jersey. Monica has agreed to share her story with me and with all of you because she's had a real long journey, a long one. I think about 20 years, she said, with fibromyalgia, CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, back pain, leg pain, and probably some other symptoms as well along the way. And she wanted to share her story just to let you know that this stuff is a legitimate thing and there is hope to get better, especially for the fibromyalgia folks who, if you go to Dr. Google, it says, we don't know what causes it and there is no cure. Well, there is a cure. And, she'll prove that that's the case. So, Monica, why don't you say hello, introduce yourself, and however you want to launch into your story is fine. You don't have to start when you were 3 years old, but kind of when things kind of started going sideways for you, what happened, and when you found out about this Dr. Sarno TMS guy, and kind of I'll let you, tell your story.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Sure.
I was a super healthy 26-year-old, and I woke up one day and felt like I had the flu. Mm-hmm. And I was just completely out of the blue, super sick. Body pain. I felt like I had a fever. And I'm like, okay, I'm sick. And then it got worse and worse and worse. And started going to the doctor. No one had any idea what was wrong with me. I eventually tested positive for the Epstein-Barr. Mm-hmm. So they said, oh, you're really high with Epstein-Barr. That's probably it. But it never went away. And then the fatigue was so bad, I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't work. At the time, I was a freelance artist doing graphic design. I did websites and catalogs for small to medium-sized businesses. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't continue working. It was horrible. I went to a new doctor every month. I went to UPenn. I went to every doctor in South Jersey you could imagine. Right. And they did not know what was wrong with me. And then finally they started to say, you need to see a rheumatologist. Mm-hmm. And a neurologist. And they all kind of came together and said, you have CFS and fibro, and that they told me it overlapped because I had so much fatigue and so much pain. And they told me they didn't know what caused it, that there's no cure. Some doctors told me they've seen patients get better within 5 to 10 years.
Wonderful.
Some doctors told me I will never get better.
Wow.
Which I think it's been really common from what I hear from anyone that I speak to.
Well, even Google says there is no cure. We don't know what causes it. So just because they don't know what's going on doesn't mean there's no way out.
Right. At the time, it was it all started in 2001. So to me I didn't have a lot of information. Anytime I would just Google CFS, the 21 symptoms came up and I checked for all of them. Wow. And I'm like, all right, this is me. And I started getting books on chronic fatigue syndrome. I joined the help support groups. And I suffered for at least 3 years, 4 years maybe. It was interesting how the first 2 years was mostly the CFF symptoms.
Right.
And then it gradually got into super fibromyalgia, where the pain increased, but the fatigue wasn't as bad. There was a noted difference, which is weird.
Right.
But that CFS is so real. I would try and go to work, and I would go and sleep in my car. I would almost want to just fall asleep under the desk. I could fall asleep on the sidewalk. It was just unreal. And even when I went to the doctors, I don't think they even believed me.
Right. You were the
When
hypochondriac, like everything's wrong with you.
they were like, but I was so determined to get better.
Right.
I'm like, this is not going to stop me. Oh, I went to a holistic healer.
Right.
She tested me for everything. I had so much blood work. She looked for like bacteria in my mitochondria. She did experimental vitamin IVs.
Wow.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Like, all right. Well, don't create flashbacks like,
I went to her office.
You can leave some details out if it's traumatizing. But.
And I was in this room with sick people, and she gave me an IV of vitamin B, vitamin C, and then she called it like a cocktail. And it was so strong I could smell the vitamin C.
Wow.
Oh, and she also gave me vials of vitamin B12.
Okay.
She's like, you don't have energy. It's going to help you. You need this. I did self-injections every night of like 10,000 whatever cc's of vitamin B. Nothing. Absolutely no change at all.
Wow.
There was one point we went to Great Adventure and my husband had to push me in a wheelchair because I just couldn't move. I couldn't walk. I mean, at that time I was like 28.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
And you're like, hey, this is my life. Yay.
Right. And finally I was with a client. I was building her website and I just was commenting on the body pain. And she looked at me and I was telling her all these therapies that I was trying to do. And she just looked at me and said, Monica, all you need is this. Handed me John Sarno's book and a huge back massager.
Okay.
It was like this enormous thing. It was like a $200 thing. She goes, I don't need it anymore.
Wow. That's awesome.
So that's all she said. Oh God, my arms. Like I said,
you're getting the chills, right? Oh my God.
My whole face is just like.
It's emotional when you start thinking back to what you went through. So that's cool.
So
what did you do? Where'd you go from there? Did you read the book?
So simultaneously, as I was reading that book, my uncle, who's a doctor, was trying to help me.
Okay.
And he brought me to a hypnotherapist. And the hypnotherapist was kind of like on the same track. She just must have known. And all she did was just say, you need to keep telling yourself that you're healthy. She says, you're not sick.
That's Sarno's core message. There's nothing wrong with you. Exactly. Go live your life. There's nothing wrong with you. You think you are broken, but there's nothing wrong with you. And it's really a matter of teaching the brain that you're okay.
At that point, Dan, I stopped telling myself I was sick. I took CFF and fibro out of my vocabulary.
Perfect.
I took the word pain out of my vocabulary. Every day, I told myself over and over and over, I am full of health. I am a healthy person. I never said I'm sick ever again.
Awesome.
And it's like within 6 months, I had my whole life back and I went back to full-time work and was exercising, running like 5 miles a day, got promoted, went on to another career, had like just fantastic energy, and I just never looked back.
Yeah, that's unbelievable because, we were talking before we actually hit record here, and she was saying or Monica was saying that, you know, anytime she would tell somebody with fibromyalgia that I used to have it and I'm better, they don't believe her. And so that's one of the reasons we're doing this call here, is because this whole mind body concept is really, really what causes the vast majority of chronic illness, certainly fibromyalgia, other pains, other syndromes, burning, numbness, tingling, weakness, migraines, you name it. All sorts of symptoms can come from the brain. Now, just a quick question. We don't have to get into the context of what was going on in your life, but was it a very stressful time in your life when you were in your mid-20s?
It's so funny because at the time you don't put the two and two together.
Well, that's what I want to connect for the viewers here, is to say, okay, so why did this happen in the first place? And don't share anything you're not comfortable with, but, you know, could you see a connection now looking backwards?
I had a huge life event that happened 3 months before that flu came on, where a good friend of mine stopped talking to me.
Okay.
And
significant abandonment.
So I'm getting goosebumps again.
That's okay.
It's the anger and the rage. It's complete rage. Yep. So angry that someone would not want to talk to me.
Right.
She doesn't want to be my friend. And she was my friend since we were like 6 years old. She was my best friend. She was my maid of honor. And people changed. She went off to New York and met new people, and we weren't on the same track anymore.
Sure.
And I kept like, you know, how come we're not hanging out? And she's just like, Monica, you know, I'm not on the same level of friendship as you anymore. And I took that really hard. I took it really personal. Also at the same time, you know, my marriage was failing. The anger, like when he talks about emotions, like, yeah, there's a lot of emotions, but when you start just breaking everything down, I really hone in on that anger and internal rage.
Sure.
And you never think about it. You would never, ever think about, I'm a happy person. Like, everything's going great. But when you start just dissecting things and you're like, you know what? I was really mad that she didn't want to talk to me. Yeah. You know, I was really mad that I was in an unhappy marriage and I wasn't living my life.
Right. Yeah, and Dr. Sarno, for anybody who's new to these concepts, Dr. Sarno speaks that it's repressed emotions, primarily anger and rage. And what do we mean by that? It means that these emotions are so overwhelming, scary, dangerous, they don't fit with your own self-image. So what do we do with those emotions? We go, they don't belong. That's not who I am. So we make believe it's not there. We swallow it, and before we know it, the brain, it's getting close to the surface. And Sarno's theory is that the brain creates this illness, these symptoms, as a way to actually protect us from these emotions, which the brain perceives as more dangerous than crippling fatigue. And so you end up getting sick. Go ahead.
It feels a need.
Sure.
So I became paralyzed. I became sick. I needed my husband to dote on me. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to like face the ideas of having friendships and like, oh, well, like all this relationship didn't work out. I'm bedridden. You know, now
nobody else can reject you now because you're not going out and putting yourself out in public. Yeah.
My whole life just shut down. Because it was like, nope, we can't do this anymore.
And that kept you safe from another crushing,
you have no idea,
interpersonal. Yeah.
Right. Oh, he's not going to divorce me now. I can't move and I can't work. That's what happens.
But again, I know that sounds really far out there, but the brain's job is to keep us safe and keep us alive. And in your case, it sounds like, and look, Monica and I just met for the first time tonight. but it was truly keeping her safe from that crushing rejection and abandonment from other social situations and friends and even her husband. That's wild.
Yeah.
And those things are so huge and devastating that hopefully anybody watching can start to see that, wow, that could result in physical symptoms. And it often does. Very often.
And even minor, where like if you're going out to a party and then all of a sudden you get a headache, there's nothing wrong with your head.
Right.
Like you just don't want to go out.
Right. Go home before somebody makes you feel like you don't belong there.
Right. Or you have back pain, so you can't go to work. Your back's fine. You're just having a problem with work right now.
So here's the point of all this. I mean, you know, once you got through this and learned about the TMS and the mind-body connection and really worked to convince and sell, like you're selling something, your own subconscious brain that your body was already okay.
Yep.
When the brain finally started to believe it, the symptoms start to go away. But unfortunately, in Monica's case, you know, and like most people's cases, you get traumatized by the medical system. I mean, could you imagine at 26 years old saying you'll never get better, you're always going to be like this, get used to it? That's essentially what they told you, which is devastating. So
amazing doctors.
God bless your client for giving you that. Yeah, I'm not blaming the doctors, but God bless your client for giving you the Sarno and saying, here, good for you for saying, I need to look at this, and then recognizing and connecting the dots, and then making the commitment to yourself to say, these words are no longer in my vocabulary. It's fantastic. And you literally convinced and sold your brain, your subconscious, on the fact that there's nothing wrong with me. And your brain listened and eventually turned off the symptoms. So that was a number of years ago. I think you said 15 years ago when the fibro and the fatigue kind of disappeared. You hinted that there's been some additional hurdles along this journey. So you want to share any of that stuff?
In 2010, my fingers started going numb.
Oh, wow.
And it started with like my pinkies, and then it went out to my other fingers to like a point where almost my hands were just like tingling. And like, okay, this is not right. So I went to the doctor, and he said, I need to refer you to a neurologist.
Makes sense.
And a lot of doctors looked at me and they thought I had MS. So they did a brain scan, and it came back. They said, we found 2 lesions on your brain. So you might have brain cancer or MS. So they rushed me to the emergency room at Jefferson in Philadelphia.
Right.
And they were starting to like put needles in my legs and feet to see like what kind of pathways were like messed up. And I could feel all the pins okay. And I was waiting. The neurologist was calling for a spinal tap, and they were prepping me for that. Then all these doctors came down and said, Monica, we looked at your scans again, and there's nothing wrong. It's coming up as they called it like a freckle on the brain.
Okay.
They said it's just completely normal. These scans come up very highly sensitive. You're fine, go home.
Were you relieved, or were you like, did you start to connect the dots to the whole TMS mind body stuff again? Or were you saying they're missing something? I need to go see more doctors. Where were you?
I was very relieved. Having numb hands is a very real feeling.
Of course.
And it sounds like super neurological. I did everything I was supposed to do. I went to the doctor. I got the testing. And thank God, whoever read the scan again, they didn't crack my skull open.
Right.
And
But
yeah,
you did the right thing. So for anybody who's watching, it always is prudent to go rule out anything significant, things like life-threatening, like potential brain cancer, tumors, aneurysms, neurological. She had the nerve conduction test to make sure that everything was working, and it was. So, look, we're not saying blind faith, just trust the fact that, your brain's creating this to distract you and protect you from emotions. Rule out the life threatening, but then you can rule in this thing called mind body syndrome, TMS. And there's specific ways to do that. So, fantastic. All right. So, keep going. This is a hell of a ride.
It is crazy. That was 2010. And then 2013.
Well, were you able to get rid of the symptoms?
Yeah, I was fine.
Once you found out you were okay, you said, okay, it's the same thing. My hands are fine. That's cool.
Just got better.
Awesome.
Oh, they also told me, first it started out as carpal tunnel.
Right.
When you start researching, people have been typing and sitting at desks for hundreds of years, and we're fine.
Right. And they used to use the mechanical typewriters that were like, and now they're saying that these computers are dangerous, which is ridiculous.
I did all the weird ergonomic stuff. So then they said it wasn't carpal tunnel, it was my ulnar nerve.
Right.
That you have to stop putting pressure here. And I got all the super testing, everything. They said, you have a compressed nerve. So it's totally fine.
And you're fine. So that was 13, 2013.
Yeah.
Oh,
after that, then my legs started to hurt.
Okay.
So first my right leg cramped up. And I'm like, okay, you're stressed out, Monica. Just chill. You're fine. Then my left leg cramped up. And now both my legs are so tight, I was seeing stars. And for hours and hours and hours, the muscles wouldn't relax.
Like a Charlie horse tight?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I would try and walk, and my legs were so tight that it was like pushing my hips together. So I had this insane hip pain and lower back pain. And this pain was just like at a level 10, where I couldn't think straight. I could barely walk. Again, I'm like, you're stressed out. Just, this is your legs are fine. But it was so bad, I went to the doctors. And I showed the doctor my legs, and I'm like, look at this. Like, this isn't right. Like, they were just like concrete. Like, my muscles and my IT bands were just unreal how tight it was. And again, the doctors looked at me and they're just like, oh, you need to stretch. They gave me some pain meds. They gave me some creams. They told me to like roll things out with like this foam roller.
Sure.
But one doctor was concerned, and he stuck needles in my muscles to see like if there was a nerve thing. And that was just so painful. Yeah. They did so much blood work. Dan, I found out really quickly I was really healthy.
Well, again, ruling out the life-threatening, the serious, make sure nothing horrible is happening. And, okay, so I want to connect some dots. So in 2010, 13, and then this leg thing, you said, okay, you're really stressed out. And you don't have to tell me, the stories behind it, but were you able to now, looking backwards, say, yep, these things were going on?
Yes. So eventually in 2012, I got divorced.
Okay.
And it was like a month after the divorce, I woke up with back pain.
Okay.
And I'm like, one morning, I'm like, this is different. My back has never hurt me my whole life.
Right.
And it was just like center, lower back pain. And I'm like, you're going to get through this. This is a really hard time. You're going to be fine. But then it got worse and worse and worse. And then when I ignored all that, then that's when the legs said, okay, you're not listening to this back pain. Guess what? You can't move your legs now.
What do you mean can't move them?
Like, they were so tight that I was just almost immobilized.
Wow.
And I would just walk. I'm like, you got to walk. And I would just keep walking right through it. But at that point, I had to really do the work, which it wasn't just reading the book and telling myself I'm healthy anymore. It was the serious, like, I got to figure this out now because it's bad.
Right. But by this time, say when you first found out about this stuff, there weren't that many resources out there, right?
I had a paperback.
Facebook, Facebook, YouTube, podcasts, all that stuff wasn't there. But by 2013, when was the back and leg thing really kicking in? Later?
2013 was when my legs cramped up.
Yeah.
And it took about almost a year and a half for that to go away.
And so, but again, and at that point, there were more resources available online for you to start seeing other types of TMS type of protocols.
I read the books again. And then most recently in like 2017, so I was really good for like 2 years. I was completely fine. I was running. I was exercising, going to the gym. I lost 20 pounds. It was great. And then I started a new job. And then my legs started to hurt again.
Stress.
Yeah. So at that point, that is when I want to say the podcast totally saved me, because I just listened to the success stories over and over again. I listened to all the interviews of the pain doctors and the back surgeons saying how we recommend these surgeries. They don't really help people.
Right.
You know, I read all the success stories where people have their back shattered from accidents. They're fine.
And they heal. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. So I I knew I had to do a quick turnaround, and I listened to anything I could possibly listen to. And I feel just listening to that is almost different than reading the books, because like you're hearing the words.
Yeah, it's coming in from a different modality.
It's kind of taking that in. And I also, the community with Facebook.
Sure.
And the groups, and just like, I think through helping other people, you help heal yourself too. So that's what's important to me.
Which is what's keeping me pain-free.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now I'm just like this. It blows my mind to see people suffer. And I do want to help people.
That's great.
Just like Sarno says, the 50% of the people that came into him that didn't want to get helped, they were not cured. Yeah, the other 50% that believed him, saying, okay, please help me.
Well, that's the thing. There's a choice everybody's got to make.
Yeah.
When you're presented this information and you say, this could be what's going on, but there are plenty of people that are not ready to hear that. There are plenty of people that look at this and say, you're calling me crazy. You're saying it's all in my head. You're saying I'm imagining it, which nobody here is saying that at all. Like Monica and I both know beyond many people that none of this is fake. None of it's imagined. The pain is extremely real. It's not in your head. It's in our bodies. We feel it. The pain is very real. It's just created by the brain as opposed to a physical injury, fall, or abnormality. But some people are not willing to accept this. And I think there's a phenomenon where people actually say, I can't accept this because if I do, then that means this is my fault. I brought this on myself. And I've heard that. I've had conversations with my mom, and my sister has had some issues with neurological symptoms. And my mom was like, but it's not her fault. I said, nobody ever said any of this was anybody's fault.
Right.
Like, you didn't bring any of this on yourself. It's just where you ended up based on your life up until the time you were 26, based on all the stuff that was going on, your nervous system, your brain, and all the experiences you've had prior. You got to a point where it just happened. It wasn't anybody's fault. It just happens. And the great news is, if you can open your mind to this, there is a way out. I mean, several of your experiences could have literally disabled you for the rest of your life. And you chose to accept the fact that, no, something else is going on. My body is okay. I'm healthy. I'm young. I'm not like 106 years old. There's no reason for me to hurt this bad or be this tired or whatever. And so, kudos to you, because you refused to accept the doctor's diagnosis and prognosis for a lifetime of suffering. And when you got your hands on accurate information, this isn't false hope. This isn't like, believe it and, all sorts of woo-woo stuff. This is accurate knowledge of how the brain and the nervous system works. But you took the leap and said, this makes sense for me. And so I give you all the credit in the world for doing that. And then each time something new came up, you just stood back up and said, nope, I'm not laying down on this. I'm not taking this. Right. And you continued over and over again to, I don't want to use the word fight the fight, but literally just continue to teach your brain that, okay, this is a new thing, but it's the same thing showing up in a different way. So that's fantastic. Good for you. Anything else you want to share?
Yeah.
Any more to the story or any words of encouragement or whatever you want to share?
If anyone's in doubt, and they say, oh, this is just hokey pokey. I believe in science, right? I get that a lot.
Yeah. This is science.
The first thing that I connected was my brain takes my emotions and makes my hands sweat when I'm nervous.
Sure.
My brain takes in fear and makes my face flush when I'm embarrassed. My body controls all of my hormones, making everything happen that needs to happen with my body when it's supposed to happen.
Right.
So if my brain's controlling my hormones and my brain is able to control what's happening, if it's going to make me sick or bring my immune system down or make you tired or just.
This is science.
Positive for something, it's doing it. That's just it's so real.
I think a key phrase is that emotional events cause physical events. So when we cry, we literally shoot liquid out of our face. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like Monica said, you blush, sweaty palms, a nervous stomach. I mean, people getting up to do public speaking literally throw up before their public speech. You get in a near miss car accident. What happens? Boom, 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 boom. Your hands are shaking. These are physical events that are created by emotional experiences. So why not pain? Why not fatigue? Why not muscle tension? It's all the same thing. Anything that the body can create due to illness, injury, whatever, the brain can create, because the brain's controlling the whole darn thing. So yeah, this is not woo-woo. This is absolutely brain science, physiology, the interaction between the brain and the body. And people say, oh, the brain and the body are connected. No, it's one system. It is one system. They're not just connected. So that was a great point.
I also found fascinating in Sarno's first book was he talked about illnesses that were in vogue.
Carpal tunnel. He talked about that.
Yeah. And how, like, in the 70s, everybody was having ulcers.
Where'd they all go? I'm sorry. I'll let you talk.
Yeah.
I'll shut up.
The connection, it's not stopped. Like, it's just amazing. So there's a lot of things that I feel that as a society, we're absorbing these symptoms and illnesses and we pick it up. Oh, I have the tender points of fibro. I have, you know, this debilitating fatigue that's different than being tired, which it is.
Yeah.
That CFS was so real. It wasn't, oh, I'm feeling sleepy. Like your whole body just shuts down. Like it's like a weight is just on you.
Well, again, if you look at it this way, the brain's job is to keep you safe and keep you alive. And if the world is too intense and scary and dangerous, what's the best way to keep you safe? Don't leave the bed. Don't leave the bed. That's where you're safe. We're going to live in this little box called your bedroom, and you don't leave, and you can never be harmed again because you don't leave. And that's the brain's maladapted way to try to keep you safe. It doesn't make sense.
No.
But it does make sense when you understand that the brain's purpose is literally to keep you safe from all of these perceived dangers, like the rejection and the social,
yes,
everything, and marriage that you were concerned with, and all that stuff. So you brought some really good insights here. This isn't just a story. I mean, you're connecting the dots from like the theory and Sarno's work, which is great because some people don't seem to understand it at the level you do.
Another point too is that when you think of that, your brain is helping you and it's doing its job, and you thank it and say, oh, thank you. You're kind of like keeping me on track. I know this really sucks and this is just so dumb, but this is like what you're supposed to be doing is with your fight or flight syndrome, keeping you alive.
Safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's also, the thank you brain. I know you're protecting me, but you're going too far. I don't need this much protection. But people literally have those discussions with themselves in their own brain.
Sure.
And you can almost like negotiate with the brain and say, look, I can handle rejection, social awkwardness, a stressful job. You don't need this much protection.
Yes.
But thank your brain, because your brain's your best friend. It's been protecting you since the moment you were conceived, and it will till the moment you die. Great point. Anything else you want to share? Some good stuff.
I feel that those major life events, though, have helped me just through my day-to-day to notice and just like really understand like how my body works and reacts. Like, I know a headache isn't normal, but I also know I don't have a brain tumor, and I'm going to be okay. But I am fascinated with how it does come up with different ways to present itself. And it's amazing. But I'm just super thankful for everybody who's continued this work. I've definitely seen an interesting shift in how things have progressed in the last 20 years, how there's more research, there's more advocates, there's, it's just going in the right direction, but we're still not there yet.
Right. So what I notice is many of the medical doctors who get into this type of a practice are those medical doctors who have experienced these chronic pains or other chronic illnesses themselves, kind of came face to face with the fact that the modern medicine didn't help them either. And they were even doctors, so they had to shift. And then a lot of the TMS coaches and therapists out there virtually everybody's got their own pain or symptom story, which has compelled them to get into this work. I mean, that was me. I had 13 years worth of back pain, sciatica, and, became fascinated with this stuff when I was in my, early 30s. Took me till my mid 40s to get out of it. Now I'm in my mid 50s and still pain free. So, I don't think I have a choice. My only choice is to keep on talking about this stuff because I'm fascinated, and it took me 13 years to figure it out on my own. And I don't want it to take 13 years for anybody to get better because with all the resources that are out there, you don't have to take that long.
That 5 years I lost of my life. I described my house as like Pompeii.
Oh, jeez.
That like everything just stopped.
Yeah.
And like after I came out of it, after 5 years, I was like finding stuff in my backyard that was just I just left it. Like it's
right. Wow.
It's just unreal. And I really hope that no one has to suffer that long.
Yeah, that's great. And I really think that this particular video will make a significant impact for people with fibro and chronic fatigue, because those are some areas that there's so much resistance to this work in the community, and primarily because mainstream medicine, Dr. Google, Wikipedia, WebMD, they say there is no cure. Get used to it. The best you can do is manage it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're wrong. And you're not the only one. There's countless stories of fibromyalgia success stories.
I had all the fibro books. I had all the CFS books. And I would read them and just be amazed. I'm like, oh my God, that's me. Like, this is like my whole life. Like, they were describing my symptoms that just came out of the blue to such great detail that I was convinced textbook CFS fibromyalgia.
Right.
So it's real. But then I was just searching. I'm like, well, what's the supplement? What's the thing I need to eliminate from my diet that's going to help me? I will do anything.
Yeah, those things just don't work.
I drove as far as I could to so many doctors that I could possibly find because I was just at the end of my rope. And I tried, and I listened to everything they told me. I took everything they said, and I got no relief.
Yeah. Well, again, when you're going to people who say they don't know what causes it and there is no cure, all they're trying to do is patch things, and help you, quote unquote, manage things, right? But Sarno actually offered a cure, a legitimate, honest to God cure, because he finally figured out the true cause of these symptoms. And when you know the true cause, you can resolve the cause, because treating symptoms will never work because you're ignoring the cause. So it's fantastic. I love it.
Good. Great.
I think this was awesome. I thank you for coming on.
And thank you too, personally. There's some times where I'm really just not having a great time. And when I like just the reading and the feeling that like the affirmation, just it helps. And it just made such a huge impact on me.
Okay.
And able to like really to heal me. And I'm just completely grateful that I have an amazing life now. And
that's cool. And a little shout out. You did mention Nicole Sachs. Nicole's work and her community and her podcast was very helpful. You mentioned my videos. You mentioned other podcasts. Were there any other podcasts that were like, were you listening to Eddie? Curable podcast. Okay.
The Curable app also really helped give me that breakthrough. When I was at like my darkest hour with the leg pain, I would just sign into the app, And I did it every night. I listened to all the doctor interviews, all the success stories. I did the word swapping.
Mm-hmm.
And
bananas, coconuts, or whatever.
yeah. And literally within, I want to say 3 months, is fine.
That's awesome.
It was
So
literally, it just took me 3 months of like really focusing, and it went away.
Yeah.
It just went away.
So this isn't really about Dan and everything that I teach, because there are so many resources out there, and whether or not, you resonate with me and my videos and, or not. I mean, there's so many resources out there. Curable, Nicole, Dr. Schubner, Alan Gordon. There's a lot of TMS-based groups out there, a lot of really helpful people, really intelligent, smart people.
And your success story resonated because I could just understand that you were really there with the back pain.
Oh yeah, this is not book knowledge. This is like 13 years of personal knowledge. Plus, another whatever, what is it? 11 years worth of continued study in this and participating and involving myself. And so a couple resources, go to painfreeyou.com.
Yes.
I do have a video which explains this whole mind-body concept. It's about 22 minutes long, and then there's a self-assessment that you can do. So for anybody new to this and you're saying fibromyalgia, well, maybe this applies to me, go watch that video at painfreeyou.com. Download the self-assessment, go through it, see if you can connect the dots like Monica did with very stressful time in her life, and the anger, the rage, along with the fear of, oh my God, what if my marriage doesn't work out? And all of that building up in the same time. So painforyou.com, there's Pain For You on YouTube. That's my channel. I've got a Pain For You group on Facebook, and I don't want to turn this into a complete pitch session here, but there's a lot of resources, and I wanted to have, Monica give a shout out to some of the resources that have helped with her. And don't quit. For anybody watching this, fibro, yes, it's a real thing, but it's not what you've been told. The symptoms are real. Chronic fatigue, the symptoms are real, but the doctors have it completely wrong as to what causes it. And when they say there is no cure, don't believe them. Monica's proof, and there are countless other fibro success stories, chronic fatigue success stories. People get their lives back. And had Monica listened, 20 years ago, she might still be in a wheelchair, literally. So you don't have to be, if that's you. If you're given those helpless, hopeless diagnoses and prognoses, don't believe it. There's a way out. Dig in. There's lots of resources. So, Monica, unless you've got anything else, I'm going to thank you deeply from the bottom of my heart for sharing. I think a lot of people are going to benefit by this, and I will let you know when I post it.
Oh, and thank you for all your work. It's a lot of work. Like, you're just nonstop. Like, you're always there, and your posts are just gold, and I take them in, and sometimes you'll just answer one question, and I'm just like, where is this guy coming from? Like, it's amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, I literally post a video every single day, and I've been doing it since March 26th of 2019 without missing a day. So that's over 800 days in a row. I show up with a mind-body TMS type of a topic every single day. And so those are available for free. I'm not charging anything for those. So find them on YouTube or Facebook. And again, Monica, I really appreciate it. I love your energy. Despite everything you've been through, you're smiling, you're laughing, and you are optimistic and hopeful. And yes, sometimes the world still has some speed bumps and curves in the road, and but you're still doing great. And I expect you'll continue to.
Oh, thank
And
you.
if you ever run into a problem, get in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Monica, for sharing your story, and take care.